Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I have a very exciting topic for you. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about my 24 hours using Rhino for me to recreate this image here that I did in midjourney. So a little bit about a background here before I start showing you guys kind of my experience on this. I really want to keep these more as I guess like a journal for you guys to are learning these new things and just putting yourself challenges. I haven't used Rhino for the last 9 years, and I've recently have become really inspired by a lot of the videos that I see on YouTube of different architects and designers. And there's this guy, I think it's Oliver Thomas on ATN, how he goes and interviews other architectural companies, and it's exciting to see what other architecture firms are doing, and a lot of them are actually implementing Rhino in very interesting ways. Rhino and Grasshopper and this whole parametric movement. But something that really interested me is like I have been in the last 6 years or plus working mainly with ArchiCAD, or you can call it a BIM software, and I haven't really pushed myself to learn any other 3D modeling tool except for 3ds Max not too long ago, and I'm still learning that one. I'm kind of doing my course with Boutique, the new school, and I'm already about to graduate from there. But recently I've noticed that I still want to stay in the architecture realm, and 3ds Max is great for ArchViz, but it's not necessarily architecture friendly. But Rhino seems to be a very good middle ground between still having the flexibility to model a lot of things while keeping a lot of the material things that is not as good as 3ds Max and Blender, but at the same time gives still a lot of flexibility, while at the same time it does keep it does have a lot of the precision and tools related to AutoCAD or Revit or ArchiCAD, and it has connections with ArchiCAD. So I think that Rhino is a really good tool to learn that stays in that middle ground. So I kind of started challenging myself to I'm kind of gonna go do the rookies competition in June, and lately I have been playing a lot with AI. So I created this image with I want to say this was with midjourney, and if you guys follow the channel, I have been showing how I have been playing around to create these images here. Just to kind of give you a really quick overview of how I created this image. This image was pretty much I got another image that I got inspired. I don't remember the building that it was, but I pretty much just uploaded that to ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to act as an architect and as a designer and as a photographer, and if it could give me a description of the image, kind of more architecturally emphasizing in the architectural part of it. And then it gave me a description. I edited it a little bit, then I uploaded to midjourney, and then with midjourney, after like half an hour of iterations and additions and everything, eventually came out with this one here that I really liked. Of course, like any other AI images, once you start kind of looking carefully into it, you realize that there's a few mistakes, right? And there's a few things, like for instance, the railing doesn't look right. You know, like it's not fantastic, but as far as the concept of it, as far as the idea goes, that's really what you want to get out of the AI. You don't want to, it's very hard to get a 100% perfect image from AI, and that's sometimes what I have to kind of fight people around, that they don't understand it as much or they haven't really played with it as much, is like very few times the AI is gonna give you a 100% perfect image. It's like humans, like sometimes we make little mistakes here and there and we hope you don't see it. And the great thing with AI is like it has a very good atmospheric environment, which a lot of times you kind of miss that unless you're looking at it in detail. And it's funny because now that I've been modeling this and I've been trying to actually replicate this, I realized that there's a lot of things that in the eye, whenever you look at it for the first time, it looks okay. But when you start kind of applying materials or scales and things like that, you realize that some scales are off, but because it's such a good atmospheric environment, it still seems good to the eye. But once you start kind of modeling it, I'll show you around. But like sometimes when I will model like a bush, I realize that for the scale of the building, this bush is immensely big, right? When I put it in the model, this bush is actually like 5 times smaller than it actually is, right? And then is when you start realizing that the scales here are a little bit off, right? But anyhow, I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of my experience, my first 24 hours with Rhino of trying to replicate this building. And this image in general, because then later on I'm gonna try to use DeFi, and I'm gonna show you a little bit on that. I'm still working at this part 1 of my first 24 hours using the program. So this is the image that I'm trying to replicate. So I think now that I have given you the overview and what I'm trying to replicate here with that, I think now we can go to the next one here. So this is my Rhino file. Again, and a lot of the things I'm gonna tell you guys are probably not modeled correctly, right? Because these are my first 24 hours. So model how I could, right? The important thing is kind of to get it done at this point. Like I kind of did look a little at some of the YouTube videos out there, some of advice that they give me whenever it came to modeling something like this. But at the same time, this was my first 24 hours with the program. So a lot of things might be off. A lot of the time you're gonna see these things and you're gonna probably tell me like this is not the way you model it. But at the end of the day, whenever you give somebody an image, they're not gonna ask you how you model it. They're gonna just see the image and see how well it looks, right? So as long as you get, in my opinion, especially with the amount of experience I have on this program, as long as I get it done, that's what counts. That's already, it's gonna then later on push you forward later. So that's what I recommend you guys to do, is like do something that scares you a little bit. I mean, I don't know Rhino, and just coming out with like, hey, I want to replicate this, it's a little scary, right? Especially when you don't know a program, right? So but that's what I encourage you guys. I mean, a lot of you guys like think that maybe I'm gonna start with something small and things, and every time I did try to start with a little house and everything, but I personally don't understand the point of that, in the sense that if I'm gonna just model a house that it's already very modular or is very classic in the sense of like, you know, the houses that we build nowadays, if you still have a very good understanding of ArchiCAD or Revit, I might as well just model it there, because those programs are literally designed to build those, right, houses. So you already have the walls, modules, beams, everything is there. So it's a lot more efficient. Anything that is an architecture class, like not classical as far as like the style, but as classic as far as like just the regular pitch roof, gable roof house, 2-floor, you know, that, in my opinion, you should just do ArchiCAD or Revit for that. I mean, unless you're really good at Rhino and SketchUp and you feel like you can get a lot faster. But in my mind, you might as well just do an ArchiCAD and Revit, and you also get the construction documents in there and you don't have to be translated. But Rhino, it's great for me personally to start really translating something more parametric, something that it will be a lot more difficult to model this in ArchiCAD or Revit. And also just for the fun of it, where I'm not really have to focus right now on coming out with construction documents. A lot of it is for exploration purposes, for learning. So this is the image as a reference that I have, and this is the model that I did. So I'm just gonna explain you the tools that I use, guys, because I'll be honest, this is not complete. This is my 24 hours, so a lot of these things I kind of wing it. Like if you see about it, like I follow. This is not complete at the back, right? But I want you to understand this. This is kind of what I learned from the Archviz world. Is in this case, my goal is to create an image, right? Maybe 2 images of the front. So I don't really have to focus that much on, I don't have to be spending a lot of hours doing the back, unless from the beginning I already know that I'm gonna do an animation around the building, then maybe yes. But my goal, especially for this first project that I have for these particular Rhino model is just to get the front right. It's just literally just to replicate this image, and then if I can get maybe a 20-second animation out of it from that kind of side to the front, fantastic. But you always have to remember, step number one is to start with a composition in mind that you want to achieve, because you can really focus on the modeling part in that area. Otherwise you're modeling the whole thing, and sometimes you're not even going to show that, and you're just spending time, you know, that you could have spent in other things. So okay, so how I did this, I didn't have a plan, honestly. So at the beginning I started with just creating levels, like one, but I literally just started with creating levels like this, and just to kind of more or less get the scale. You know, I kind of came here and I kind of look at a human scale here, and I was like, well, that's, you know, that's 6 feet, maybe, you know, we have 6, 12, 18, 20, maybe it's 25 feet, and then here you maybe have another 25, 50 feet total, plus minus 10. So you could kind of get a sense of a scale, and that's what I start kind of doing here, just kind of getting a sense of scale. So a lot of this is I don't have sketches. A lot of the plans, I don't have any floor plans or anything like this. This was just based on an image in AI. So the first thing is to get a scale right. So just go put in this case it has a lot of people here, so I was able to kind of get more or less what scale is. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get the scale of that right. So what's 10 feet, what's that, and then from there really trying to kind of get the idea of, besides the scale, what's the thickness of this, what's the, you know, and more or less what's the distance here, right? If you have one person here, is that 25 feet, is this 30 feet? And the important thing is, like, you don't have to get it perfectly, but you at least need to get it close, just close enough, you know, so you can kind of at least start generating a scene here that kind of look like it could be. So once I start kind of doing that, again, I'm just learning. So these already took me like an hour just to kind of get these there. And I use the standard thing, and I just use the classic, you know, when you come here, I just use the squares, right? So I just came here, create a square, and then created like a planar surface, you know, and then selected this guy, did this, give it a thickness, and then just move it at like, you know, because it's like saying 25 feet, you know, and it's like kind of doing those things on there just to kind of get the scale right. A lot of things, again, a lot of these things might not be modeled correctly, but here's the trick here, what I found, because at the beginning I thought, okay, how am I gonna model that? Like that to me, that's the thing. Like, you want to start potentially with, I'm not gonna say the most difficult thing, but you do want to start with something that is a little bit more challenging than maybe just the thing. So yeah, I mean, at the beginning I started with the plants, and then I just set up the ground just to kind of get a sense of a scale of what's the distance here. As you can tell, like, I started with also kind of generating a footprint of the building at the beginning. So I kind of went to, as you can see, I'm still not quite there yet as far as getting familiar with this, but so the first thing I did is I went to top view, and I start kind of drawing this as if it was like a floor plan, right? Like, I kind of got the okay, once I kind of got the levels there, I was like, okay, so this is, I went to the image back, and I was like, okay, that's maybe 30 feet. You have at least, I will say, 20 to 25 feet here. So I start kind of drawing that, right? Like, and then I start kind of getting like, what would be, if I had to guess the floor plan of this, it does look a little bit like sharp here, it does look a little bit curvilinear here. So really trying to get, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just try to kind of guess more or less what will it like if you're looking at it as a floor plan, how it will look like just as the building footprint of the first floor. And how will the building footprint of the second floor will look like, because here you can tell, like, it's not, the second floor does not go all the way up to this, to the first floor, right? Like, you have a cut here, so it's definitely smaller. I mean, according to the AI, you know, it is a one floor, but once you start kind of realizing, wait, is it one floor 25 feet? Is it like a museum thing? And, you know, then is when you start realizing, okay, is that just 2 floors, you know? And then is when you can start putting some creativity to it and really realizing, well, I don't know if I don't know if the building actually, like such a building will work only for 2 floors, right? Like I would like to have like at least 3 or something. But yeah, I mean, you kind of get the idea of the footprint first, right? So you get the basic stuff, which is again just the levels. Then you get like a 2D, like let's call it floor plan or side plan, whatever you want to call it. Again, just the building footprint along with, you know, where the ocean, kind of where the pier would be, if we can call it pier. From there, what helped me a lot is that I was a little stuck at the beginning. I did not really want to, I didn't know how to approach this, right? Like I didn't even know how to do this. So I started with square, with a box, right? And from the box, I really start to kind of moving things around as far as like getting these here, like extruding it, you know, and doing that, and then extruding it more. And I thought at the beginning, okay, that's fine, but it's not, you know, it's not getting that like curves that I wanted. And again, I know, and I'm like, I don't know, like once I kind of got it to a point where like it was here, I was like, I'm not liking what this is doing, and I don't even know how to fix it until I saw a video of something like that, and whoever was doing that, it was actually using the SUVD tools, and that's when it clicked for me. Because when you do a SUVD tool here, and you start with a box, the great thing about it is like once you click tab, right, tab, you see how, so this is how it's my model is looking really, but once you kind of do this, you see how it actually has a curve already, right, with you having to do a lot of work. Now, of course, this is very destructive, and I'm sure that whoever knows how to use Rhino will actually tell me how awful this mesh is or this SUVD thing is. But for somebody that is learning, I'm like, okay, this is great because at least I can wing it, and I can actually start doing, you know, bringing these things here, right? Then I can start doing the same thing that I was doing before, right? I can do this and that, and then I can be stretching and do this. But in general, it has already the curve. It already has like a more, you know, already from the beginning, you know, I don't have to be worrying about that. And then from there, the great thing is just that it really becomes more like sculpting, right? Because at that point you can move these here, you can, you know, keep doing that, like up, down, and yeah, and it becomes really sculpting, right? Like, and then, so for instance, you can do these wider, you can do like, you can change the scale of this, you can change the scale of that here. So really, it's not, now, on the bad thing about this, right, it's not something you can just duplicate right away. Like, if you tell me to redo this one here, I'm not gonna be able to redo it exactly how it was there, because it's very disruptive method. Like, I would not be able to replicate this because there's a lot of sculpting that goes into it. It's like when somebody sculpts a face or something again and do exactly the same thing, it's hard to do it. Now I understand why a lot of people do use Rhino, Grasshopper, and others that are parametric, that have already a like language, because you can generate these things with already numbers with numbers and sliders, and becomes a lot less destructive. Where if you want to replicate the shape or that, you just copy that and copy the basic geometry, and you will potentially end up with exactly the same thing, but not with this, right? So that's pretty much it. I mean, sometimes when you really want to like pronounce a corner, right? Like I really needed to pronounce this one here, or for instance, I really needed to show more like rectangular. As you can see, this is more rectangular here. Again, this might not be the right way to do it, but you just do Control Shift, and then you know, do this. And what I would do is like I would just do bevel. And I'm sure like something that I found it, you know, is that and I wish, and I'm sure I'm gonna learn later, like there's a better way to do it. You see how now it has that corner. Now the thing I find out is that this is very destructive. Like, for instance, in 3ds Max, I will be able to do a polished surface, and then I will be able to do a bevel, and it will generate a bevel. But if I want to go back to change the surface, I can just delete the bevel command and redo the surface and then bevel it again. Whereas here, I feel like if I want to bevel it again, I am not sure how to do this, right? So I'm sure like there's a less destructive way to do it, to where now you cannot re-bevel it again. Unless I do Control Z. But what if I have already worked on something else and now I wish I didn't have to bevel it because now I don't want to deal with that many points. Then again, my first day doing this, so take it with a grain of salt. But this is, if you're like just like me, just learning Rhino, just letting you know that you can still generate very good geometries and stuff without you having to, you know, learn Rhino for 3 or 6 months. I mean, look at this. This was my first 24 hours. And the last thing I want to show you guys, because that's the main. So what I taught you about, like the the tools, is I did these with the sub-level tools, these with these sub-level tools, the glass. So the glass was pretty simple. So the only thing I did with the glass was, let me see if I can do this. So the only thing I did with the glass really is I did this, and then I use loft as a command here. So curve here, and then click here, and then that. And then once you have that as a command, I twisted a little bit, but this is pretty much it. And then the trick here is, how do you create that, right? How do you create the window frames or the mullions, whatever you want to call them? So for that, I did use Grasshopper, right? And it's a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be, because that was one of the things I was trying to avoid, to use Grasshopper or anything that is involved like that, because 8 years ago, I think I didn't have a great experience in college because the professor was just going too fast. I was also still not too comfortable with like English as far as how fast people will talk, so I will sometimes not even understand what people will tell me if they were going too fast or too technical. But what I want to show you right now is just this basic command that I learned, right? That it's very easy, right? And maybe you guys can integrate it and you guys can kind of generate that. But I learned this from a YouTube video that I forgot who the guy was, so I'm sorry if I forgot it. But so the only thing you really need to do here is, you know, you start with, like, you double click and then you say surface, and you want to again double click slider, and you know, you can Control C, Control V, you know, and then you can have two sliders here. But really what the trick is to have a launch box. Go to launch box, and then here is where you can already have panels that are pre-made for you. So I think I did the skew squat for that one, and the only thing you need to do is right click here, set one surface. You already get that surface, and you kind of bring that in here, and then with the sliders, I mean, I'm gonna just copy this one because this is already set. But yeah, I mean, here you can double click here and you can set up the parameters as far as you start with maximum numbers 10 and all that. So you come here, you put it in the U, and then here you do it in the V, and oh yeah, the last one here. Just so you have the form, you need to go to pipe. I'm sure there's probably better, like a better form here. So, and then I go to C, and then is where it will actually generate the, you know, the geometry here, hopefully. Is it generating? Oh no, wait, I need to add double click. Just gonna, again, the only thing you need to do is really create a slider here, and the slider will be the radius, and that's what it will create the thickness of the mullion. Okay, so what's happening here? Radius curve. What is inherited in source 1? So what's going on? Empty fill panels parameter. It is that way, right? Well, I guess I mean, that one's 0. I feel like I did one number. Okay, I think I remember now. I think the one number here is off. Yeah. Yeah, okay, so these is too small of a number. That's what's going on. Yeah, I mean, this shouldn't be like that. This one here is 1 to 10 or something. So it reads it correctly. Or 1 to 50, I think. Yeah, sometimes you just have to read the descriptions and just because that's the number of panels it will have, and he was saying point something, so he was not really understanding what does that mean. So Rhino is loading, and it will create a mesh. But if you think about it, that's a very simple one. I mean, you just have to put a surface, select the surface you want, and then it will automatically create this for you. And you can bake it, and it's done. You're all like done. You know, like, well, it's probably because I'm on a video here. That's why it's taking it so long. Okay, let's see. Alright, so here it is. Again, I don't want to get too much in depth in this because it's just to me show you how I did it, you know, in the sense of that. You can change that depending on what type of panel you want. It's definitely not liking me right now. I think... Yeah, and then once you're kind of done with that and you want that, or you just play with the numbers until it gives you something you like, the only thing you do here is just right click it here, bake, yes please, and okay, and it will bake it. That means like it will automatically create that mesh for you, and there you have it, right? And that's pretty much it. I mean, those are the three main ones that you need. I create this one here with Soup D. I create this one with just the basic squares here, with 2D squares, and the same with that. This one here was a little tricky, the railings, and I don't know if I want to get into this one because this one, it was still something that I don't even know if I'm doing this correctly. But as an overview here, you create like square, you create like you pretty much create a cylinder. Oh well, I'm actually not gonna go through this one because this one, I don't know if I got that one, but you can pretty much generate almost anything with just a soup and just basic standard, you know, squares and things like that. And just grasshopper, if you want to get any actually like interesting like mullions and things like that that actually have some structure. Okay, so now that I have this, what's the next step to replicate this guy here? So the next step, I should put it, my idea is to put it in Unreal Engine, but for now I really want to test it and see if I can just do it in DeFi for now. Just because Unreal Engine, I'm not a fan of Unreal Engine just because you have to do a lot of setup before to even use it properly. So I brought it to DeFi. As you can tell, it doesn't look the same, right? But it's getting there. I mean, you have the form. Now, I probably have to work the next 24 hours getting these color right and getting the water right and getting the textures right. But as you can tell, like, look at the people here, right? Like, look at the people. Like, these are actual real-size humans here. And you see how it kind of look the same, right? Like, you see the scale of that one with that one? Yeah. But suddenly, if I put a person here, it does not look this tall, right? Like so the scale that the AI is giving me, even though for the eye, it could look a little correct, is not that correct, you know, like it actually tricks your eye because these one here and these one here are very tall trees. Like the bushes that I put are like this, but these one here are very tall trees, whereas these one here are bushes. So if I put a bush here, remember, this will be like 10 times smaller than the actual bush that is giving me in this image. So a lot of whenever I start placing things is when I start realizing that, oh gosh, yeah, some things the AI is very good tricking your eye. That it looks okay, but once you start putting things together in this thing, you start kind of realizing that there's some very strange scales going on with the image here. But for whenever you just look at it, it just looks correct, right? It looks fine. For me, it looks fine, but But yeah, I mean, these are okay, so for instance, so here I kind of just tell you a little bit of what I did. This is of course not finished, but I just want to kind of give you a little overview. So I start kind of placing materials here. So this one, for instance, this material here from far away looks fine, but then you look at it carefully here and it looks like way bigger. So that's something that I'm start realizing with the AI, is that some things look right from the distance, but once you start kind of breaking it down into more detail, you realize that so some things are like, look how small that person is compared to, you know, the references. Oh wait. Oh no, wait. Oh, here. You compare it to the reference here. Look how small this person looks, right? Like a couple feet smaller than this one. So you realize that scale is a little like tricks you. Yeah. So what I did here was pretty much I added the materials. Still not done yet. I'm still playing around with materials. Of course, this is too shiny, and I have to change the roughness and all that. I use that. I'm kind of realizing that DeFi, and I don't know if this is a DeFi thing, but whenever I'm using a HDRI on DeFi, like actual HDRI is not coming the right way. I mean, I think it's the scale of this is so massive that whenever I bring like all these things don't look fantastic. This one looks okay, but because it's clouds. But if I actually bring like a city, or I mean, the city is like looking way bad. So something I need to really start kind of like knowing how to fix that. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the thing. I kind of put it here right now. I'm starting to place some materials. You start kind of realize like I have a few things that I need to work on. But a lot of it is just we're gonna be environment, getting the textures right, actually getting the railing right. Like this one here, you see this railing had to do it different because this one here doesn't look right. So this one here has to kind of get done that way. I need to change materials, but overall, I need to fix a few things here with the glass. I don't even know if it will allow me again. Yeah, well, that would be cool, but I might model a few things inside and things like that. But so far, that's my and I'm trying to kind of do like a night scene. That's gonna be tricky too, but I'm just right now playing with it and just kind of showing you guys my honest process of my first 24 hours with this model. I would think for the first time using Rhino, that's probably the thing that took the most part, because sometimes parts were really slowly. A lot of the shells I had to redo. Right when I was learning, I was doing them with the standard geometry, and then later on I realized that 2D is better and it just looks cleaner. I'm sure there might be a way to do it with the standard geometry in a good way, but for a beginner, if you want to achieve more like curvilinear forms and things like that, at least if you're just starting, you might want to do SUV just because it's a lot more forgiving when it comes to curves and all that stuff. And I think watching tutorials and just learning by doing. I think rather than me just going and spending hours watching. I mean, I did watch one masterclass that it was an hour long from this guy from Scandinavia. I forgot his name. But the guy's very good and shows everything. But once I kind of learned the basics of how to move and how to, put a square and, do basic Boolean things and stuff, then is when I realized, okay, now how to do. I know the basics of moving and how to rotate and stuff like that. Now how to do this. So for whoever is starting with Rhino or any other program, I'll say start with something that is going to challenge you. And I will say 20% education and the other 80% doing. Doing a project is where you're really going to learn the most, because whenever you're doing something and you don't know how to do it, you're eventually going to go and investigate in YouTube, in ChatGPT, in the Google, and you eventually will come out with at least a sort of a solution, right? Or even like watching YouTube videos about that specific thing that maybe does not exactly relate to the other thing, but maybe you kind of realize, okay, at least I can utilize that. So it's about being resourceful. Kind of like me, I didn't, and I started doing with standard forms, and then after watching a couple of YouTube videos, realize, okay, somebody's creating forms like this with sub-D tools. and create it with 2D tools and things like that. So I would say the only thing I can tell you guys, like whenever you're starting a new software or something, start with something a little more challenging, something that scares you a little bit, and something that has a lot of things in the sense of for you to learn, right? Like this one here, I kind of realized, well, there's a lot of linear elements along with like organic elements, a lot with like easy elements, like should be, and it has that nice mixture of water with foliage, with concrete, with whatever this is, a metal, a glass, and it has a background, it has fog, it has light, so it has a lot of elements here that I can practice and use and everything. So it's not just basic thing where it only has maybe 3 or 4 elements. It actually has a lot of little elements here that I can use. And for my particular case, I did not feel comfortable just doing a basic house, just because I feel like if I'm gonna do a basic house, I'm not gonna use Rhino because I'm already much faster in those programs. Those programs were designed to build those houses. They already have the elements there that you can just do it quickly, whereas Rhino is more like for this, right? It's more like sculpting, organic things, parametric shapes. So that is my overview with Rhino. I feel impressed. I feel like there's so many things that Rhino can do that I'm really like excited about what I can accomplish, as far as, because I'm treating it more like as a hobby right now. Like this is something that I used to draw and dream about building, and I'm actually technically building it digitally. So that's my overview, guys. So I hope you guys like the video. I'm gonna be creating a part 2 of this one here, where I'm actually finishing up the environment and the rendering, and come back to Rhino and clean up a few things. So that will be my second part of the 24 hours, maybe even my 48 hours, and hopefully it will look the same, if not better than this image. So thank you again for watching, and